So I want to move into AI for a couple minutes. And you said something which has prompted me to read a question that came in from one of the audience members. It said, and this picks up on this theme of the state apparatus in China basically being very linked to state-owned enterprises, et cetera. And I think this is an interesting view, which is vis-a-vis AI. Do you see a day where US tech companies are more aligned to the US government, even if it's not as severe as China?
Oh, it's absolutely possible. It's absolutely possible. I think a lot depends on which way AI goes in the next 3 to 5 years. I think the technology is growing a lot faster than the governance. And right now, the trend has been towards more advanced models that require much more compute, much more energy of these massive large language, right? All the data that's out there. And if it continues along those lines, then within the next several generations, the amount of the cost, just the cost of developing this, will mean that only a very small number of organizations in the United States and China will be able to play. And yeah, those organizations in China will be linked to the government, and those organizations in the United States will increasingly be linked to the government in certain ways because of just the national security implications of what AI will be able to do will require some level of overlap. But it may also occur because of hybridization of governance in society, in the economy, when so much is determined by who controls that data, who controls those platforms. That's possible. And if that happens, then the United States may well become more state capitalist, or just may well become more monopolist economically in terms of its platforms, which feels state capitalist because you just don't have the competition.
Correct.
Now, that's possible. But it's also possible, and a lot of people in the AI field feel this way, that what is going to happen with the next few generations is not just about bigger and bigger models with more compute, but it's about taking the models that you have and applying them to data sets that are 100% fact-based, science-based, that are discrete, and that can lead to incredible inventions and reductions of waste and improvement of management and all these things in all of these different scientific fields and sectors. And if that happens, then AI becomes incredibly proliferated in both its upside wealth generation, but also in the downside availability as tools to cause massive disruption, disinformation, new weapons, malware, viruses, you name it. And then it's not about the US and China's governments. Then it's about who has access to it. And there will be haves and have-nots, and the inequality will be massive. But for those that have access to it, they'll be everywhere. They'll be everywhere. And if it's the former, then in mitigating the risk, also, I worry less about global governance. There'll just be new arms control agreements between the Americans and the Chinese. If it's the latter, then we're desperate for global governance. Then US-China arrangements won't get you very far. And I am completely uncertain about where this is going to head in the next few years. Because again, the technologists that I talk to who know much more about this than me do not know. They don't agree and they don't know.
I mean, it's interesting, this whole notion of inequality, because there is an argument and a real concern among public policymakers that you will see the benefits of AI really accrue to people who own capital, and the people who essentially own labor could be, it's classically the jobless underclass argument, but essentially you have a widening of inequality as fewer gains accrue to people who own labor. But
by the way, I'm worried about that. And I'm sure people have seen the IMF's recent report that said 40% of all jobs globally will be disrupted by AI in the near term, 60% in advanced industrial democracies. I am more worried about the inequality between people that have AI and do not, as these tools change from being LLMs that are the same for everyone to being models that are training on your data. Because when they train on your individual data, they will be the most important tool that you've ever had. And I mean, a friend, therapist, assistant, productivity enhancer, everything that you will keep on all the time. And I think that's going to change. If you think social media has changed people's ways of thinking and engaging, I think this will change who we are as people. I don't think we're Homo sapiens completely when that happens. I think we are the next thing, whatever that is, in 3 to 5 years. And I don't think that we will interact with people that are not that. And I worry very deeply about that. In other words, I worry that the people that don't have that tool are likely to face the kind of inequality that has described some of the worst scenarios in our collective history and imaginations. And therefore, we need to do everything possible to ensure that those numbers are as small as possible, as quickly as possible. It's very, very important.